Okay, thank you, Alex. First of all, of course, thank you for inviting me to be here amongst such a select company. I'm going to talk about Max, but I'm also going to talk about the trumpet because you have to know a little bit about what my philosophies are behind the instrument to understand why I make the choices that I do. And actually, I'm playing the instrument for a very long time. I was 7 when I first started playing trumpet, so that's a long time ago. But then I was taught by my father, who was sort of a dictator in teaching me. And so I between 7 and 10 I was really drilled on the instrument, and then and it was like in a marching band kind of. We call it fanfare in Holland, but I don't know what the equivalent would be here in Great Britain, but you get the idea. Brass band kind of situation. So, and I played in that band, I think, till I was 16, and I said and then I thought, no, let's stop this because I really don't like it anymore. And it took me a year to tell my father, and after that year, he said, but can't you go on for another year? So I went on for another year because of my father, and actually I stopped trumpet playing for quite a while. And then I came back to playing trumpet because I discovered jazz. It was first I was studying physics at the time, and for me it was like coming back to or to really start playing music actually, because before it was like sort of a championship, who is the best musician, who is the best band, who is this kind of competition idea of making music. And then in jazz I could really start to express myself, and so that was actually, so I started late as well. That's actually my story. Casper told us yesterday, I think, that he started at 25. I feel like I started playing music when I was like 22, although I played the trumpet since I was 7. And so I just was a trumpet player till like, how long ago? Like 2004, 2005. That was my first encounter with electronics, and at that time it was an encounter with a guy who would do electronics while I would play trumpet. So that was Jor Tamega. He was a colleague of mine at music technology. I was teaching there because I had a physics background and I played trumpet, so I could. So they thought, well, he can probably teach our trumpet students quite well, but I didn't know anything about using live electronics at all at that time. But luckily, through Jorrit and a duo that we formed, I came in touch with electronics, and I got this feeling I want to do this myself, because he was doing all the fun stuff and I was just providing input. Well, that is a little bit beside the point, but at least I wanted to have control, some of it. So the first thing I started to do was get myself a foot controller and start doing things with that. And then mostly it was like he would do the sound processing and I would give him rhythms to play with. And I was sort of MIDI controlling his output, so the rhythm was my part and he was doing the sound. And well, that got somewhere, but not exactly what I expected of having the control myself. And in the meantime I went to quite a lot of concerts, for example with, I don't know if anybody knows Arve Hendrickson. It's a trumpet player from Scandinavia who does a lot with live electronics. I like his music a lot. But still, when I went to a concert, I saw him, and then he would put down his trumpet and start playing with the knobs for a while. And that was not the way I wanted to do it. I wanted to have a sort of combination of the control and the playing. It just like it felt like two different things when it was not together. So there was the first start to think about making sort of a hybrid instrument. And then I looked at other hybrid instruments. I don't know if anybody knows the name of Ben Leeuw. He has an augmented trumpet, for example, where there are knobs somewhere on the instrument, and he would like push them and then start playing again. So that was also not what I meant, because then you have to change the way you play, and you do a few things here and you start playing again. So I was thinking, like, how can I make that on the instrument itself so that I don't have to grab around? And actually that's the struggle I'm still having. That's what I'm still busy with, perfecting and making it more like one integration of being an acoustic player and doing something digital with it. And then the other thing is, I like to play with other people, and I also like to play all kinds of music, not only like experimental stuff. I like to go to a jam session and just pick up my instrument and, for example, join a jazz jam session to be able to play along. I'm not there yet, but there is some improvement in really being able to play these tunes. You will hear about it later. So that's one of the ideas behind the instrument, to have so I'm not designing for use in compositions, but although I'm doing that, but the main thing is to have an instrument that can be used in different situations and have as much possibilities with integrated instrument as that I have with the just acoustic instrument, which is still a hard thing for me. So what do I actually use? Because then we go a little bit more technical. If you look at it, there's a lot of extra knobs on it, and I will go a little bit around. There has been some evolution in the instrument. I already told you. When I started off, I started only with these knobs, which are actually extra valves, like they are sort of the same as the normal valves of the trumpet. They also feel the same. And everybody will think like, oh, that is, you probably use it a lot because you are very, very experienced with it, so you will probably use this also in the same way. And that was my intention in the beginning, but gradually I shifted more and more away from these knobs because they don't provide the same thing as I'm doing here. Then I had some knobs here, and it's quite simple. I can just, oops, I have to put it on. I can, for example, you see that a slider moving, that's the volume, and I have another slider here that changes like tone colors, and you can see them under the volume slider going up and down. And then I have another one that's doing the speed of playback when I record something. Gradually I wanted more control, and I started with this. There are two sensors here, which are pressure sensors, and when I move them, you can see them in the yellow there, and you see the slider moving down and another moving up. I use them mostly for transposition, which is quite logical to use it there. And then I have here a ribbon controller, which I can move my thumb along, and you see the red thing moving on the screen. And I also have a infrared sensor which is moving around here, which is my most painful sensor at the moment, because luckily it is dark inside here, but once in a while I would get like stray light coming in that sensor and disturbing my playing. So I'm also already thinking of improving the instrument by replacing this one with a joystick sensor which can do things in 3D. It's like a 3D theremin actually. And That's another thing. This is very one-dimensional. Actually, this one is as well. And I'm now at a point that I feel really restricted by this one-dimensionality of the sensors. And when you compare that to a trumpet, and trumpet, I mean, I have to do things with my lips, but I can also change the mouth cavity. And it gets a different tonal quality when I do that, and I also play it on the instrument. Not to say just the breath control itself. So I'm looking for like an integration of the different the acoustic and the digital parts. Oh, another one I have, another sensor that I use is this extra mouthpiece, and it goes here. And you will think, oh, this is probably a thing that you use also a lot, and because they are very close together, you can use them quite easily together. But actually, I don't use this so often either. So these were like the first ideas. Well, now I discovered that I mostly use this sensor, the ribbon controller, and this sensor, the infrared sensor. And this is quite logical, I think, also because I don't know if you ever heard like a sort of, for example, a player like Cooter Williams, he will play things like